What if your computer wasn't a physical thing you carried around? What if it was just something you could access from any screen? Your laptop, tablet, phone, even someone else's computer. That's the idea behind Windows 365. And I know the name makes it sound like just another Microsoft product, but it's actually a whole new way to think about what having a computer even means. By the end of this episode, you'll understand what Windows 365 actually is, who it's for, and whether it makes sense for you. Plain English, no jargon, one knowledge nugget at a time. The problem: why a cloud PC even exists. Let me describe how most businesses work today. You hire someone, you buy them a laptop, you image it with the right software, you ship it to them, you manage it for the next 3 to 5 years, then you replace it. That's the cycle. It's been the same for decades. Now, what happens when you hire a contractor? You have two choices. You give them a company laptop, which means buying, imaging, and shipping hardware for someone who might only work with you for 3 months. Or you let them use their personal device. And that creates a different problem. When a contractor uses their personal laptop for work, your company data ends up sitting on their hard drive, right next to their photos and tax returns and whatever else is on there. You lose control. You don't know if that laptop has antivirus software. You don't know if it's been updated. You don't know if it's been stolen or lost. And if that contractor leaves, you have no way to get your data back. Remote work makes this even harder. Imagine you have an employee in Berlin and another in Singapore. You want to ship them both laptops. That takes days. It costs money. If something goes wrong, you have to ship a replacement. And if you have seasonal staff, retail workers for the holiday rush, or temporary staff for a big project, buying a laptop for someone who works for 3 months just doesn't make sense. So here's the core tension. Businesses want flexibility. They want to hire contractors, support remote workers, and let people use their own devices. But they also want security. They want to control where their data lives and who can access it. Traditional hardware just doesn't give you both at the same time. So what if you could separate the computer from the hardware? What if the computer itself lived in the cloud and the device in your hands was just a window into it? That's exactly what Windows 365 does. What Windows 365 actually is. So here's the simplest definition. Windows 365 is a full Windows desktop that runs in Microsoft's cloud, not on your device. I like to think of it like an office building. Your actual workspace, your desk, your files, your computer is inside that building. You can walk in through any door, whether it's the front, the side, or the back. It doesn't matter because the workspace is the same. That's what a cloud PC is. It has its own processor, memory, storage, and apps. But all of that lives inside a Microsoft data center, not on the device you're holding. You access it through the Windows app, which you can get on Windows, Mac, iPad, iPhone, Android, or any web browser. When you connect, it looks and feels exactly like a normal Windows 11 computer. You get the start menu, the taskbar, the settings panel, everything. You can install apps, save files, change your wallpaper, and it behaves exactly the way you'd expect. But here's the key difference. Your data never actually lives on the device you're holding. You could be using a cheap laptop from 5 years ago, a Mac or an iPad, and you'd still have a full Windows experience with all your files and apps right there. The Cloud PC is always on, always available, and always up to date because Microsoft handles the maintenance. You don't have to think about updates or security patches, they just happen. So how does this actually work behind the scenes? Let's peek under the hood. How Cloud PCs work behind the scenes. When you sign up for Windows 365, Microsoft creates a dedicated virtual machine just for you. That's your personal Cloud PC. And it lives in one of Microsoft's secure data centers, not on your desk. So when you connect, here's what's actually happening. Your screen, your keyboard, and your mouse inputs are all sent up to the cloud. The Cloud PC processes them, renders the result, and streams the video back to your device. It feels like a local computer because the connection is fast, but the actual work is happening miles away. Your Cloud PC has its own C drive, installed apps, settings, and desktop wallpaper. Everything you'd expect from a normal Windows computer. The difference is that none of it is sitting on the hardware in front of you. Microsoft handles the updates, security patches, and backups. You don't have to think about any of it. You can close your laptop, walk away, open another device, and pick up exactly where you left off. The Cloud PC is still running. Your files are still open. Each Cloud PC comes with a specific configuration. Entry-level ones start at 2 virtual CPUs, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and 128 gigabytes of storage, but you can go much higher with more CPU cores, more memory, more storage. And here's the thing. If your needs change, you can resize your Cloud PC. Want more RAM for a few weeks? Upgrade it. Project's over? Downgrade it. You can't do that with a physical laptop. Now, Windows 365 comes in 2 main flavors. Let me explain the difference. The 2 flavors. Business versus enterprise. Windows 365 Business is built for smaller organizations, up to 300 users, a simpler setup that doesn't demand IT expertise. You manage everything through a web portal, assign licenses, provision Cloud PCs, turn them off when you're done. It's straightforward, and that's the point. Windows 365 Enterprise is for larger organizations already using Intune, Entra ID, and Microsoft's full management stack. Enterprise gives you deeper control, custom images, conditional access policies, device compliance rules. You can fine-tune almost everything, but you need the know-how to use it. Here's a simple way to think about it. Business is like renting a furnished apartment. Everything is ready when you walk in. Enterprise is like building your own house. You choose the layout, the materials, the finishes, but you need to know what you're doing. Microsoft also introduced Windows 365 Frontline and Flex for shift workers and shared scenarios. If you have employees working different shifts and sharing a single cloud PC, that's an option now. And there's Cloud Apps, a newer offering. Instead of a full desktop, you stream just specific applications. Word, Excel, a line of business program. The user doesn't get the full Windows desktop, just the app they need. Most small businesses and contractors will use Windows 365 Business. It's the simplest path. No existing Microsoft infrastructure required. You just sign up and start assigning Cloud PCs. So who actually uses Windows 365 in the real world? That's the fun part. Who it's really for. Let's start with contractors and temporary staff. And this is probably the most common use case. You hire someone for a 3-month project. In the old world, you'd buy them a laptop, image it, ship it, and hope it arrives on time. With Windows 365, you give them a full corporate desktop in minutes. They log in from their own device and they're working. When the project ends, you revoke the license. No hardware to buy, no hardware to reclaim. Then there's BYOD, bring your own device. Lots of companies let employees use their personal laptops, phones, or tablets. But that creates a problem. Your company data ends up on their personal device. With Windows 365, that changes. Your data stays in the Cloud PC. It never touches their personal laptop. They get the flexibility of using their own device. You get the security of keeping your data in the cloud. Remote and hybrid workers benefit too. Imagine someone who works from home 3 days a week, comes into the office on Thursdays, and travels to a client site on Fridays. With a traditional laptop, they carry everything with them. With Windows 365, they get the same desktop experience from any location, same apps, same files, same settings, no need to sync anything. It's all already there. Small businesses without IT teams are another big group. You don't need servers. You don't need VDI expertise. You don't need someone who knows how to configure Azure. Microsoft handles the infrastructure. You just sign up, assign licenses, and your people are working. It's that simple. Seasonal workers are a perfect fit. Think about a retail business that hires 50 extra people for the holiday rush, or a logistics company that scales up for peak season. In the old world, you'd buy 50 laptops, configure them, and then figure out what to do with them in January. With Windows 365, you provision 50 cloud PCs for December. In January, you turn them off. You only pay for the months you use them. Business continuity is another one. Imagine an employee's laptop breaks or gets stolen. In the old world, you'd order a replacement, image it, ship it. That takes days. With Windows 365, they just log in from any other device. Their work is still there, all their files, all their open applications, everything. They don't lose a single hour of productivity. Mergers and acquisitions are a surprisingly common use case. When you acquire a company, you need to give their employees access to your systems, but they already have their own devices. With Windows 365, you can give them immediate access using their existing laptops. No need to ship new hardware, no need to wait. And here's a number that really sticks with me. The Forrester study found that organizations saved 120 hours of onboarding time per employee. That's 3 weeks of productivity they didn't have to wait for. When you think about the cost of a new hire sitting around waiting for a laptop, that's a real savings. The reason businesses love this model isn't just convenience. It's security, the security difference. You have no control over it, and you don't know if that laptop has antivirus, if it's encrypted, or if it's been compromised. And when the contractor leaves, you have no way to get your data back. With Windows 365, your data never leaves the Cloud PC. It stays in Microsoft's data center behind enterprise-grade security. The personal device becomes what's called a dumb terminal. It just displays the video stream and doesn't store anything. So if someone steals that laptop, they don't get your data, they get a device that can't do anything without logging into the Cloud PC. Here's where the default settings matter. When you create a new Cloud PC, redirections are turned off by default. USB drives, local drives, clipboard printers. Nothing can transfer data between the personal device and the Cloud PC without an admin explicitly approving it. So a contractor can't accidentally copy a file from their Cloud PC to their personal laptop, can't plug in a USB drive and walk away with company data. The admin has to allow it first. Conditional access policies take this even further. You can set up rules that block access to company resources unless the user is connected through their Cloud PC. So even if someone has the right password, they can't access your SharePoint or your email from their personal device. They have to go through the Cloud PC. That gives you a single point of control. There's also screen capture protection, which prevents someone from taking a screenshot of sensitive content on their Cloud PC. If you're in healthcare, finance, legal, or government, that's a big deal. You don't want someone screenshotting a patient record or a financial document and walking away with it. Microsoft Defender monitors the Cloud PC for threats, and patching and updates are handled automatically. You don't have to rely on the contractor to keep their personal device up to date. The Cloud PC is always running the latest security patches. And if a Cloud PC is compromised, if someone gets in, you can reset it instantly with one click. The machine is wiped clean and restored to its original state, with no need to wipe a physical device, ship a replacement, or wait. This is especially valuable for regulated industries like healthcare, finance, legal, and government. Sectors where data security isn't optional, it's the law. Windows 365 gives them a way to let contractors and remote workers access sensitive data without putting that data at risk. All of this sounds great, but what does it cost? The cost picture. Let's talk money. Windows 365 business plans start at $28 per user per month, after a 20% price cut that took effect in May 2026. The standard plans, 2 virtual CPUs, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, run around $40 to $56 per user per month. And the premium plans for heavy workloads go higher from there. Now compare that to buying a business laptop. A decent one costs somewhere between $800 and $500 upfront, plus setup costs, maintenance, and you're replacing it every 3 to 5 years. Over time, that adds up. But here's where the math gets interesting. For contractors and temporary staff, the numbers change dramatically. You only pay for the months they work. 3-month project, you pay for 3 months. No hardware sitting in a drawer afterward, no depreciation, no disposal costs. The Forrester study I mentioned earlier found that organizations saved $750 per contractor just by not buying hardware. And that's before you factor in IT labor. Deployment costs dropped by 88%, maintenance costs dropped by 88%, and machine recovery costs dropped by 96%. Over 3 years, the composite organization in that study saved $1.1 million in IT labor alone. Then there's the onboarding time, 3 weeks faster, remember? That means employees are productive sooner, and time really is money. If someone is sitting around waiting for a laptop to arrive, they're not generating value. With a cloud PC, they're working within minutes. For full-time employees, the comparison is more balanced. Cloud PCs end up roughly competitive with buying mid-range laptops when you factor in all the hidden costs, the IT time, the support, the refresh cycle. But the real cost advantage shows up when you have a mixed workforce, some full-time staff, some contractors, some seasonal workers. That's where the flexibility of paying only for what you use really starts to pay off. But Windows 365 isn't the only option. How does it compare to the alternatives? How it compares to the alternatives. Let's talk about the most common question first. Windows 365 versus a traditional laptop. A laptop is better if you need offline work or specialized hardware like a high-end graphics card. But a cloud PC wins for security, flexibility, and simplicity. You don't manage the device, you don't worry about losing it, you just log in from another screen. Now, the comparison that gets more interesting is Windows 365 versus Azure Virtual Desktop, or AVD. Both give you a Windows desktop in the cloud, but they're built for different situations. Windows 365 is a fixed monthly cost per user, predictable, simple, and always on. AVD is pay-as-you-go, so you only pay for the compute time you use, but you have to manage the infrastructure yourself. Here's the simplest way to decide. If you want simplicity and you have full-time users, go with Windows 365. If you have large deployments with variable usage patterns like shift workers, part-time staff, or seasonal peaks, AVD can be cheaper, but it's more complex to set up and manage. And you need someone who understands Azure. Then there are older services like Citrix. Windows 365 is simpler because Microsoft handles the backend. You don't need a VDI specialist or complex networking. You just assign licenses. The reality is that many organizations use a hybrid approach. Cloud PCs for contractors and remote workers, traditional laptops for office staff who need local performance, and AVD for shift workers where the cost savings from pooling really add up. There's no single right answer. It depends on your workforce, your IT skills, and your budget. So here's the most important thing to remember. Windows 365 isn't just a new product, it's a new way to think about what a computer actually is. A computer doesn't have to be a box you buy and carry around. It can be a service you access from any screen. The key takeaway is this. If you manage contractors, remote workers, or a BYOD environment, Windows 365 gives you the control of corporate hardware without the cost and complexity. Here's a challenge. Think about one role in your organization where a cloud PC would solve a real problem. Pick one person, one situation, and see if the math works. Next episode, we'll compare Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop in detail, the pros, the cons, and how to choose. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and share this with someone who's just starting their journey.